In the south of Denmark, a mega project is underway to build a tunnel under the Baltic, linking the country to Germany.
Now, it's to the Baltic Sea, where construction of the world's longest underwater rail and road tunnel is underway. The 18-kilometre passageway, due to be completed in 2029, will link Denmark and Germany.
The country that brought the world Lego is now pioneering a new construction technique for tunnels that has a passing resemblance to the child's toy.
A freight truck rolls up to a harbor in northern Germany. The driver is headed for Denmark, then Sweden, then the rest of the Nordics. But the route hits open water. The truck queues, checks in, waits for the ramp, and then sits on a ferry while the clock keeps moving. Zoom out. The strip of sea between Puttgarden in Germany and Rødbyhavn, Denmark, is about 20 kilometers wide. The ferry crossing itself is about 45 minutes, and you're asked to check in before departure. For decades, that gap has acted like a soft stop sign for trains and trucks moving between Scandinavia and mainland Europe. Now, Denmark and Germany are turning that water into a shortcut. They're building the Denmark-Germany Fixed Link, often called the Fehmarnbelt Fixed Link, a tunnel under the Baltic Sea. It's about 18 kilometers long, and it is designed to carry both road traffic and electric trains. When it's finished, the same crossing is planned to take about 10 minutes by car and about 7 minutes by train. That time change sounds small, but it changes freight math for Northern Europe. In freight, minutes turn into money: driver hours, missed rail slots, and late deliveries. And it also changes something else that matters: intense times, how quickly heavy equipment can move across borders on the same roads and rails everyone uses. Here's the twist: this isn't a tunnel drilled through rock, it's a tunnel built like Lego. Giant concrete blocks are made on land, sealed, floated out, and then lowered into a trench on the seabed, one piece at a time, until the pieces lock into a single watertight line. And the stakes are bigger than one crossing. This link is meant to become a new, faster path between Scandinavia and Central Europe. If it works the way planners expect, it turns Denmark's islands in northern Germany into a must-pass gateway where time saved compounds across whole supply chains. This story starts with a promise between countries. In 2008, Denmark and Germany signed a state treaty that set the project in motion. Denmark would build and finance the main tunnel, and each country would handle its own land connections. It took years of studies, permits, and debate before the project could move from paper into concrete. On April 28, 2015, Denmark's parliament adopted the Construction Act that became the legal framework for building and operating the link. In Germany, approval was issued on January 31, 2019, and on November 3, 2020, Germany's Federal Administrative Court dismissed all appeals. That ruling mattered because it meant the project was finally approved in both countries. Construction on the Danish side began in June 2020 with a work harbor and a new coastline at Rødbyhavn on the island of Lolland. EU treats the link as more than a local project too. It sits on the Scandinavian Mediterranean corridor, one of the EU's core transport routes from north to south. And the EU is also putting real money behind it. In July 2024, the EU's senior agency said the rail-related works are supported by Connecting Europe facility funding and described total EU co-financing of more than €1 billion. A project fiche for one major action lists a maximum EU contribution of €589 million tied to building the fixed rail link in related works. And Denmark isn't only building a tunnel, it's also building the runway that feeds it. In September 2025, Fehmarn noted that Danish rail facilities tied to the project include around 110 kilometers of new double-track railway from Ringsted to Rødby, and said that part was on schedule. An immersed tunnel works like this. You dig a trench in the seabed, lay a smooth base, and then place huge tunnel sections into it. For the Fehmarnbelt Tunnel, a standard element is 217 meters long and weighs about 73,500 tons. The plan calls for 79 standard elements plus 10 special elements, 89 pieces in total. Those pieces are made in a series production setup. Each standard element is built from 9 segments, each about 24 meters long, and the full process takes about 9 weeks. Fehmarn says the aim to produce a standard element about every second week for about 3.5 years. Some of the pieces are special on purpose. Fehmarn says special elements include a basement area for technology, which helps both construction and later maintenance. That's a quiet detail, but it matters. This tunnel isn't just concrete, it's also power, signals, ventilation, communications, and safety systems that have to work all day, every day. Fehmarn says the tunnel is designed to operate for at least 120 years. That's one reason casting happens inside climate-controlled halls, where quality can be kept consistent across element after element. When an element is ready, workers fit waterproof bulkheads at both ends, tugboats tow it out, and a special vessel lowers it with high precision and couples it to the last piece. Fehmarn says water is pumped out between the bulkheads and outside pressure pushes the pieces together to seal the joint. And the tunnel also needs front doors. Fehmarn says a portal is built in Denmark near Rødbyhavn and in Germany near Puttgarden, connecting the tunnel to the upgraded roads and railways in the hinterland. Fehmarn says work on the Danish portal pit started in 2020, the German portal pit the following year, and work on the portal structures began in 2022. Before any Lego brick can click into place, the seabed has to be prepared. A trench must be dredged, then leveled with gravel so the elements sit on an even bed. It's the kind of work where close enough is not good enough. Nature also doesn't follow the plan perfectly. In September 2025, Fehmarn and Sund said parts of the trench were found to be about 30 centimeters deeper than planned, so extra leveling was needed. They also described working with German authorities on limits for underwater noise and sediment spill. On June 17, 2024, Denmark's King Frederik VIII inaugurated the first tunnel element produced at the factory in Rødbyhavn. It was a public milestone. The project was no longer a drawing, it had a 217-meter-long piece of proof. By January 21, 2026, Fehmarn said 15 tunnel elements were cast, equal to the first 2.7 kilometers of tunnel length. The contractor expected the first element to be immersed in spring 2026, while the special immersion vessel, Ivy, was going through final testing and approval. And here's where the Lego idea becomes critical suspense. Lowering and joining these elements is the critical path. Fehmarn and Sund describe Ivy as a prototype built for this job and say delays in approving and testing it have pushed immersion behind schedule. Today's ferry route is quick for a ferry, about 45 minutes across, but it still has schedules, check-in time, and weather effects. That means freight planners add buffer time because the sea crossing is a place where small delays can break a connection. The tunnel removes that uncertainty. EU documents describe a goal of cutting travel time and strengthening the rail connection so more freight and passengers can shift from road to rail. The tunnel itself is planned with 2 motorway lanes in each direction and 2 electrified rail tracks. EU sources say driving through the tunnel should take about 10 minutes and the train ride through it about 7 minutes. That's the difference between planning a whole route around a sea crossing and treating it like just another stretch of motorway and rail. Now, add the long-distance effect. A Fehmarn fact sheet says the travel time between Copenhagen and Hamburg is expected to drop from about 5 hours to about 2.5 hours. That is not just speed, it's a new kind of schedule. Day trips instead of overnights, tighter rail timetables, and freight that can make more connections in a single shift.
Denmark already has major fixed links, the Great Belt connection across the Danish islands and the Øresund link to Sweden. Add the Fehmarnbelt tunnel and you get an almost continuous land route from Sweden and Denmark into Central Europe without relying on ferries at the key crossing. In EU planning language, this sits on the Scandinavian Mediterranean core network corridor. Think of it as a spine, a route you can build schedules around with fewer hard stops. If the link works as planned, Denmark and northern Germany become an even more important gateway for north-south trade. But a corridor is only as strong as its weakest link. On the German side, the land connection includes major rail upgrades. Germany's transport ministry notes the rail line's total length is 89 kilometers, with many bypasses planned, partly to protect residents from noise and vibration. The route is designed for speeds up to 200 kilometers per hour, except for the Fehmarnsund link. And the Fehmarnsund link is its own project. In November 2025, Strabag said it had been commissioned by DB Infrago for parts of the Fehmarnsund crossing, describing a new tunnel of about 2.2 kilometers meant to replace the existing bridge with a higher capacity road and rail connection. So the shortcut is really a chain. If the chain is complete, the payoff is faster trains, steadier freight schedules, and a stronger north-south rail route. If parts lag behind, the tunnel can still work, but the full promise takes longer to arrive. Now to the sensitive part, military mobility. The point is not tactics, it's logistics. Modern defense planning depends on being able to move people and equipment quickly across normal roads and rail lines when governments decide it is necessary. The European Commission says its military mobility work aims to remove barriers that slow cross-border movement, including infrastructure and rules. That's why boring things like bridge limits, rail rules, and border procedures can matter. So a fixed link like the Fehmarnbelt Tunnel can make the north of Europe feel closer in a crisis because it reduces dependence on ferries that can be disrupted by weather or port bottlenecks. It's civilian infrastructure first, but it sits inside a network that also supports defense needs. For years, many official summaries pointed to 2029 as the expected completion date. EU agency updates still use that date in July 2024, but by January 21, 2026, Fehmarn said the delay around the special immersion vessel Ivy meant it was no longer realistic to open in 2029, and that a new overall schedule would be prepared after the first elements are immersed. Fehmarn has also said it's uncertain how much lost time can be recovered, and that newer constraints, like conditions from German forwardies plus world events since the contracts were signed, make acceleration harder. That's mega-project reality. The bigger the build, the more the schedule depends on rare machines, permits, and perfect timing. Whenever the opening day finally comes, the change will feel instant. A crossing that used to be a ferry trip becomes a drive-through. A rail trip that used to be planned around a sea gap becomes a continuous line, and that kind of reliability is what reshapes freight schedules. The tunnel is planned as a user-financed project. Fehmarn says it is funded by loans repaid from traffic revenue like earlier Danish fixed links. In January 2026, Sund and Belt said delays and cost increases mainly affect the repayment period, not whether the link can still be financed by traffic revenue. So yes, this is Europe's shortcut under the Baltic Sea. It tightens the map for trade and travel, and it strengthens a north-south corridor that more people and goods can rely on. And it does it with a simple idea: build the tunnel on land, then click it together under the sea.